delve right into it. So for those of you unfamiliar with who Somfy is the world's largest tubular motor manufacturer, specialized motor and control systems for all solar shading elements, including retractable awnings, rolling shutters, interior shades and blinds, draperies, and projection screens for both residential and commercial markets. We are a French-owned company, and we were founded in 1969. We are the leader in smart motor technology for wire-free Wi-Fi and motor sensors. And we have produced since 1980 over 100 million motors. And another key fact is that we have the capacity to manufacture and create over 43,000 motors in a day. So just some quick facts on who we are in terms of motor companies out there in the world. And let's go here. Okay. So Glydea Overview, it's our drapery track system. We have 2 motors, and the maximum sizes and weight that we can handle in regards to this product is a track up to 36 feet and a weight capacity or traversing capacity of 132 pounds. Targeted market segment is both for residential and commercial markets. We have a smooth and quiet operation, and with the Glydea motor line, we have the same torque for both opening and closing every time the motor is operated. And what the Glydea or motorized tracks do is actually extend the life of the drapery, given the fact that there's less hands on the fabric. Less manual operation allows for consistent operation via a motorized system, and that extends the life of the actual treatment. We can handle all types of drapery tracks. Pinch pleat, ripple fold, we can accommodate 80% fullness, 100%, and 120% fullness. We also can accommodate for an accordion fold track. In terms of stacking options, as with most drapery tracks, we have a one-way or split draw option. We can create asymmetrical, meaning that it's an offset center, and then we also have a left mount or a right mount option. In terms of types of rods, we can accommodate many. Bends and curves are not out of the question here. So we have straight, bent, or curved rods, and we could also accommodate via our hardware a single or double track, which we'll get into in a little bit. In terms of bent tracks, we do have an order form where you can simply take a standard household situation for a window, whether it's 90 degrees or 45s, and with this order form through Orion, we can create a bent or curved track based on the dimensions that you would supply us given the need of the installation. In terms of mounting, we have several options. As I mentioned, we can accommodate both a single and a double track. Our one-touch ceiling bracket is fairly common. It's a spring-loaded mounting bracket, which basically 2 teeth grab the mold of the top of the track, thereby securing it. We have a double wall mount bracket, which can extend from 8 3/4 inches to 10 1/4 inch projection, or we have a single wall mount bracket, which can go from 4 1/2 inches to a 6-inch projection or return. And then we also have a kind of a legacy bracket, which is your swivel ceiling bracket or cam lock. This bracket is strongly recommended for curved tracks, given the fact that it is just more accommodating for not necessarily a straight piece of the rail. That bracket is available for all curved tracks. In terms of carriers and return hooks for pinch pleat, we have a high-performance carrier, very smooth and quiet operation. We offer that in 3 per foot with a pinch pleat return hook. For ripple fold, as I mentioned earlier, we can accommodate 80% fullness, 100%, and 120% fullness. And as you can see there, that depends on how many snaps are within a foot. So 5, 6, and 7 as applied to those percentages on the slide. The pendants are obviously dictated on how many per foot, given the fact that they are attached to a string. And we also have a return snap. The return snap and the return hook basically attach to the motor on the return side, which allows the drapery to fully enclose the motor, so thereby no aesthetic visual of the motor itself upon installation. We do have two types of arms. We have overlap arms and buttmaster arms. The two diagrams on the slide give you a very good visual depiction of what the difference is. An overlap arm simply has, on the center open, one undergoing the other and one overlapping the other. Thereby you have a perfect blackout seam. For buttmasters, it's essentially coming to a close, almost like a fist-to-fist action, where the drapery will actually have a seam in the middle of the track. The diagrams here also give a visual representation of the return hook. If you look at the bottom right where the motor would be mounted and the return hook, the placement there, how the drapery actually covers the entire motor, given the item we discussed on the previous slide. Again, another representation of what each return hook looks like. For pinch pleat, just take your pin and slide it through the hook there, and for ripple fold, we have a snap. And we can also splice tracks. Our Glydea rail is fabricated or extruded in 16-foot lengths, so anything over 16 feet will require a splice. We can also splice anything under 16 feet if requested. This would be a special request. This allows for easier transportation of the track, lower freight costs, and it also allows you to fit larger tracks in smaller spaces. If you're going through elevators, tight corners around a residence or commercial setting, or just narrow doorways, handling a 16-foot track or a track larger than that would be quite difficult. So upon special request, we can splice a track at any location to minimize freight costs and transportation ease. For Somfy motorization, just a couple other things in regards to the Glydea motor. We have two different motors, as I mentioned earlier. We have the Glydea 60 and the Glydea 35. There's really no difference between the two aside from the traversing capacity. So a drapery weighing 132 pounds or below can be handled by the Glydea 60. The Glydea 35 could handle anything 77 pounds or below. It's a very easy setup and installation. We'll get into that in a couple other slides. Smooth and quiet operation. One key thing about the Glydea track system is that we have a Kevlar steel reinforced belt, which is quite different than any other track out there. It does not slide. It does not break down with heat from being in a window. It does not require any lubrication at all. The operating decibel level is 44 or below. We have multiple mounting options, which we discussed in the previous slides, and we also have multiple control options, which we will get into in a few slides. In terms of the two motors, as I mentioned, the Glydea 35E has 77 pounds of traversing capacity, and that is limited to a 30-foot track. The Glydea 60, or the bigger brother, that can handle 132 pounds, and we can extend that track out to 36 feet. Here's a quick little chart in regards to the two different motors, just some specification information in terms of electrical needs, what the motor outputs are. I should mention here that this is a 110 plug-in motor, so it plugs into your standard outlet via NEMA plug, but it does operate on 24 volts. So there's a built-in transformer, which allows it to be technically a DC or low voltage motor, but it does in fact require 110 power. In terms of features and benefits of Glydea, we mentioned earlier that it's a very easy setup and programming, and part of that reason is because it has automatic limit setting. It is a tension-based limit setting, so when the motor senses the stack has built up and it's at its max, it'll sense that as a limit, and then on a center open or a one-way, when it runs into the other carrier or the end drive pulley, it'll then sense that the drapery is fully closed, and based off of that tension, it'll set that limit. So really, if anyone's familiar with RTS programming, this is one of the easier motors to program, given that the limits are self-setting. We also have adjustable speed. So we can adjust the speed given the length of the track. If they wanted to close faster, we could operate at between 5 and 7 inches per second. We have a soft start and stop, which makes for a very elegant aesthetic when the drapery begins to open or close. It'll begin at a slower speed, and then it'll ramp up to its operation speed, and then as it closes or nears its next limit, it'll actually slow down for a very quiet, elegant touch. Another thing that we have is manual override. Given it is a belt-driven track, at any time you can disengage the motor when the drapery is manually operated. This simply means if a remote goes missing or some type of control goes missing or power is lost, you can still manually operate the shades, which is a key benefit. We're not limited to only having the motor operate the shades. You can manually drive them at any time. And in regards to that, we also have a programmable function called touch motion, which allows the user to activate the motor simply by pulling on the fabric. Okay, so this would mean that if a wall switch was in a distance and you didn't want to walk across the room, you could simply give the fabric a gentle tug and it will engage the motor. I'll repeat that this is a programmable feature. This does not come standard on the motor. It's simply something that in programming and installation you can engage as an option. A very key option, if you ask me. In terms of our opportunities for controlling Glydea motors, we have the RTS platform, which is Somfy's widest used and largest worldwide platform. This incorporates handheld remotes, tabletop controls, wireless wall switches, sun sensors, temperature sensors, and also timers. We also have the ability to swap out an RTS control for a Zigbee or Z-Wave control. In terms of home automation and integration, we can control the motor via RS-485 protocol, also with dry contact. And we also have a standard motor which could be wired to a hardwired switch, which would allow for a 4-wire dumb control. In terms of the control modules, as you can see up in the right-hand corner, the motor itself basically is a dry contact motor, but we have different modules that we could pop that end cap off and plug in. This here shows a list of the RTS controls that would allow for either timing control, environmental control, or manual control of an RTS motor. Z-Wave automation systems, those are different options that we could do in terms of radio control. And we also have RS-485 control, as I mentioned, for third-party integration, and also working with our line of Somfy digital network motors or intelligent motors. And Zigbee is another wireless RF control system, typically used with a Control 4 as an automation system. These modules are all available, and again, you simply just plug in those modules and you're set to go. Now we will get into the myLink system. What myLink is a Wi-Fi to RTS control. This allows us to integrate RTS motorized products to be controlled with smartphones and tablets for convenient sunlight management anytime, anywhere. This just gives you a graphical representation of what it is. RTS product could be any Somfy RTS motor. The myLink wirelessly communicates to that, and the user interface would in fact be a smartphone or a tablet. So as you can see, it's a radio-controlled, completely wireless integration system. What products does it work with? Well, it works with all RTS Somfy motors. LED confirmation on the device actually allows you to let you know what status the device is in and how it's working. It also gives us tilt control if anyone out there works with 2-inch horizontals. It does allow for tilt control in the tilt motor. And it also is a key selling point, a retrofit opportunity for all RTS jobs. So with that being said, any customer of yours that's out there, any end user with an RTS Somfy motor can now have myLink simply added to their system as another type of control. As you can see here, the myLink is simply a plug-in hardware. Okay, it's only about 3 to 4 inches by 2 inches. It plugs into your standard wall outlet. It's a 5-channel RTS motor controller, so it's the same as a TELUS remote or a 5-channel wall switch. And again, it translates Wi-Fi commands into RTS protocol. Has a range of 25 feet, And we want to consider myLink a zone controller, meaning that if you have multiple rooms in a house or in a commercial setting that have a motorized product, per room you're going to want to sell a myLink. And reason being is that it basically breaks down the home by sections or zones. Then you control the applications involved in those zones. And it's a much easier way for the end user to understand what motorized product they are controlling. You configure it with your mobile device, okay, so that would be your smartphone or your tablet, and compatibility does require a 2.4 gigahertz router, and that would have to be a BG or N router. For most residential settings, that's going to cover about 98% of your customer base or installation, but you want to make sure that when you're selling myLink that it is running off of a 2.4 gigahertz router. A really neat feature of the myLink is it actually has an embedded real-time clock for timed events, meaning that given that this is hooked up to our router and it's working off of kind of an internet-based system, we don't necessarily need internet connectivity for timed events to occur. The device itself embedded within the hardware will push timed events to the motorized product it's controlling. It supports up, down, my, and stop commands and incremental control. And you must do RTS programming and limit adjusting from a remote control or other RTS transmitter. myLink does not program motors, it simply controls motors. And this is only an interior rated device. Some of the app benefits we'll review. This will give you a screenshot of what a mobile phone or a tablet format would look. Obviously, with the tablet format, we have a much broader surface area and landscape mode that would allow us to do some different things. So this gives you an idea of it. And essentially what it does is it makes your tablet or your smartphone your next remote control. It's a free iOS and Android app, which would be downloaded via Google Play or the App Store. Another key feature to myLink is that it's scalable. Okay, this means that you could start with one and you could build upon that. It's the same with Somfy Motorization. Start with one treatment in one room, hopefully outfit the whole home. So it's a retrofittable option, as I mentioned, and scalable. You start with one, the end user likes it, you invest in more products, you actually add more applications to different rooms, you could simply add more myLinks. So it's a very scalable solution. Another thing regarding myLink is that we can create scenes, meaning that you can easily control multiple motorized products at the same time. Multiple channels per scene simply means that if you have a 5-channel myLink, you could make a scene that involves an action on channel 1, on channel 2, and channel 4. You can create another scene that involves an action on channel 3 and channel 5. And you could also create scenes across multiple myLinks. So if you have numerous rooms with multiple applications, you could actually operate via a scene multiple applications in multiple rooms under one scene. Per myLink, you are allowed to create up to 25 scenes. As we mentioned earlier, myLink also has timing capabilities, and we consider these schedules. You can only schedule a scene, okay? So you have multiple scenes per schedule as well, meaning that you could have several scenes set up for blackout shades versus draperies, and then you could have those all occur on a schedule at the same time. Scheduling allows us to choose between a specific point of day. You could also operate them via sunrise or sunset, and you could actually take that time and offset it by plus or minus 60 minutes. And we also have a vacation mode, which kind of gives a very randomized plus or minus 15 minutes, a lived-in look. So a vacation mode is kind of a security function as well, if you think about it. And per myLink, you have the opportunity to apply 25 schedules to those 25 scenes we discussed earlier. Along with Glydea, myLink is very simple to program. When you download the app, your smartphone or tablet, the app creates a wizard which walks you through the programming process. It's extremely simple. It's a tutorial, just like you're installing new software on a computer, but even simpler, in fact, for the installers. It has visual prompts, both visual imagery and also textual instructions, that walk you through the entire process. Remote access is what allows myLink to really, differentiate itself, aside from the capacity of scenes and schedules, from any other control that Somfy can offer. What it does is locally it connects to your network, and you're able to just operate it just as you would a local mobile control. But through the internet and through the cloud, we are now allowed to have remote access, meaning that you can be anywhere in the world at any time and operate your shades via your app. It's a pretty neat function. And then in terms of the family or the household, you can also easily add users. So each myLink has its own PIN, as you see here, 2102. And to simply add a device or add a user, all you need to do is share that PIN. They need to download the app, add that PIN to their app, and all of a sudden anything that's programmed to your device is now available on their device. Makes it very simple. And we also have unlimited users or devices on a myLink system. Just to get familiar with it, if you guys were ever to purchase it and sell it, you can actually download the app yourself and press and hold the Start a New System and Join Existing System button on the initial launch page, and you could actually have a demo. You could walk through the app itself. So we've allowed you to actually play with the product before even having to install it. So you can understand the ins and outs and the intricacies of it, and also some key benefits. Some guidelines before setup. This is something that you definitely want to take notes on. As I mentioned earlier, you want to make sure that you're running off of a 2.4 gigahertz router, and also it needs to be WPA2 or no security. Okay, that means simply a login password and username for the residence's LAN or local area network. You want to make sure that the end user is certainly comfortable using smartphones and tablets. Okay. It's primarily a residential product. That's how we're positioning it, although it can be used in commercial. You treat it as a zone controller, as I mentioned earlier, one per room to control the applications within that room or zone. Between 1 to 10 rooms or zones is what we're positioning it as the ideal setup. Okay, that means, within a home, 4 rooms typically will have motorized products in them: master bedroom, kitchen, living room, or a back patio area. Those would be your ideal situations, 1 to 10 rooms or zones. It's great for smaller RTS installations. If you're dealing with whole home integration, that's something that we may look for another device in terms of integrating into that. But for Wi-Fi, for smaller RTS installations, myLink certainly suits the need. And it requires pre-programmed RTS product. Okay, I mentioned that earlier. This does not program motors, it simply controls motors. That sums up the presentation. We do have 2 websites which I would love to have you guys visit. SomfySystems.com has a plethora of information in regards to different applications, different Somfy products. myLink has a landing page there as well where you could see how-to videos of discussing everything in regards to programming. Glydea is also featured on here. And then SomfyPro.com is another website which basically announces new Somfy products coming out, where we're going to be, new pieces of literature that may be available to you. You could also like us on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, and on YouTube. We also have a ton of videos on there in terms of programming, installation techniques, and such. So thank you very much for your time, and I think we could open it up for some questions if needed.
Yep, excellent. Thanks so much, Ryan. So if any of you have any questions in regards to the Somfy motorization, and then we'll move on and we'll show you what Somfy products are related to Orion decorative hardware, and kind of give you some features and benefits and tips and tricks on that. So please type in your questions if you have some. Got a couple. Question 1, Ryan, why does your router need to have no security on it?
It doesn't need to have no security. We do recommend security. It was WPA2 password protected. It could also be WEP. For instance, I have a mobile demo unit. I don't have a security password on my router, so I could simply plug it in, and it's simple to operate. However, if you've ever been to a hotel or gone to a friend's residence and stayed for a while, you may ask, hey, what's your network name and password? That's all that you would need. So we do recommend that it would be password protected, but at the same point in time, if the end user does not have a security password, myLink will still work just fine.
Okay, great. What are RTS installations? You referred to that a couple of times. I had a couple of questions about that.
RTS installation simply means that it's an installation or a job sold with RTS product. Really, it's just radio-controlled motors that are Somfy. We have a multitude of motor options, and RTS is a platform or one of those options. So pretty simplified, when I speak of RTS installations, it's simply that myLink only works with RTS motors.
Got it.
Did that clarify? I hope.
Question in regards to Glydea tracks and stacking draperies. Can one motor be placed in the center of a track so that it operates two panels that stack in the center, or do you need two motors, one on each side, to control each panel?
No, you would need two motors per that track. So essentially, you would have a two one-ways with the motors meeting in the middle, so there would consistently be that stack there.
Right, got it. So two motors, but they could go in the center of the panels, and they'd be like one way left, one way right, but on the opposite sides, actually, right?
Correct.
Okay, got it. Can they be used in covered and enclosed outdoor applications? I think Sally's referring to Glydea tracks, correct, Sally?
Yeah, Glydea is an interior rated motor. However, if it is a watertight or an environment geographically that does not have a lot of moisture in the air, it's certainly something that has been done, but it is an interior rated motor, and if there is water damage, it will void the warranty.
Great. Any other questions? And then, Karen wants to know if your presentation's available on PDF. Okay, is that something you can, with copyrights, et cetera, that you're willing to pass on to our attendees today, Ryan?
100%, absolutely.
Okay, perfect. Thanks again, Ryan, for a great presentation. Now we're going to talk a bit about some of the Orion products and how they meld with Somfy motorization. What's really great about motorization is that it really does extend the lifetime of the products that you're selling your client. You can talk to them about the investment that they're making and the fact that it's going to extend the life of the drapery fabric, it's going to protect furnishings in the room, artwork, etc. All of our single and double traversing systems, whether it's an iron, Italian, wood, the Decolite embossed fascias, or our new design art rod fascia, all offer Somfy motorization. As Ryan had said, the tracks come up to 30 foot in length. They're available in heavy-duty tracks and in all of our finishes, and we'll talk a bit more about that. You've got that smooth, quiet Somfy motors, and you also are able to take more drapery weight when you use motorization. Like all fascia tracks that are motorized, you're going to get, you can do a single or a double. You're going to get your choice of finials or end caps, master carriers. You can order our products with or without rings. You're going to get heavy duty support brackets. You're going to get the motor. You're going to get a drapery rod return hook, and you can choose your method of control, whether it's an RTS remote control or the DecoFlex wireless 5-channel wall switch. You also, with Orion, get a motor sleeve that's finished to closely coordinate with the finish that you've selected on the rod, so you're not seeing white peeking out. As you can see here, I've got an iron art single rod. I'm doing wood fascia in the wood art here with double rods. Note the rod sleeves. And then here we've done the Tuscany collection with the cornice and been able to put a motorized drapery underneath this metal embossed cornice. So if we're working in iron, you can get the round hammered, the fluted, the square, rod size selection, and you can get any of our 35 iron art finishes. We've got about 100 finials, including the crystal bohemian. And you can get the front track with or without rings. In our Italian collection, which is a bit more contemporary, you can get the round or the square. There are 6 finishes, including the on-trend brass, we call it the gold, or the copper finish, and the front track again with or without rings, and there are about 25 finials in the Italian collection. In our wood art collection, you can choose a round, fluted, or twisted rope pole, 35 of the iron art finishes, or 11 of the wood art finishes, or we can custom finish to Ben Moore or Sherwin-Williams paint finishes. You also can choose up to about 30 finials from the New York Wood or our Rosina collections. Now, Decolite just recently won the WCMA product award, and it's a fascia applied to the Glydea track. It's an embossed metal fascia. There are 11 designs. It's lightweight. It's also contemporary. It's going to give you some nice, crisp, straight lines, and it's available in 35 of the iron art finishes. Tuscany in a pole there are 11 designs and 35 of the iron art finishes, and then you can choose up to 100 finials, whether it's from our iron, our Bohemia crystalline, or the Village Forge collection. New to Orion and to Somfy Motorization is the Design Art collection. In the front poles, you can get a smooth, fluted, or rope. They're wood, by the way, and they come in 2-inch, 2 1/4, and 3-inch. And you can also get our new 2 1/4 or 3-inch inlaid pole. The back poles are available smooth, fluted, or rope, and they're 1 3/8 inch poles, and you can also do a 1 3/8 inch inlay at the back. You can choose from 58 of our decor finishes. We also custom color and design arts from Ben Moore or Sherwin-Williams, and we have a new innovative dual finish system which allows you to put accent finishes onto one of the 58 decor finishes, plus adding dual finish system to custom color. One thing that we do at Orion that I think is really great is we give you heavy-duty Glydea tracks, but they're available in 4 colors. So you can get white, you can get black, antique bronze, or gold. This is going to match most of the finishes that you're working with versus just a white pole. The other thing is that you can get your ball-bearing glides for pinch pleats with matching drapery hooks that coordinate with a color track. So again, white, black, bronze, or gold. A new feature that's come to us when we're dealing with Somfy Motorization at Orion is that when you're ordering a rod with rings and you're motorizing it, you're going to get 2 stationary rings placed at each end of the center opening system. So one ring when it's on the stack side on one-way draws. You're also going to get pulley covers that match the rod, and you're going to get motor sleeves that are finished to also match the rod. Carrier arms, we can do one-way standard, center opening standard. We can also do butt masters. We offer our Somfy Motorization in both pinch pleat, ripple fold, and our accardia. It's really easy to set up and install. You basically are going to, choose your right or left motor mount. It's a plug and play operation. If you're using a remote control, there's really no electrician that's needed or hard wiring. As long as you can power up with a standard outlet that's near the drapery, you just hook it in, plug it in, and play. Here's an example of when you're ordering some of the finishing touches that we offer. So example, when you're ordering rings, there's a stationary ring at both ends. which is really nice. So by the way, your track is going to be smaller than what your fascia system is. And then there's also a 5/8 inch tube which prevents gaps between the fascia and the track. Keeping in mind that the track is smaller than the fascia, when you look at this, you can see that you have a 1/2 inch gap on either side, so the length of your track will be less 1 inch than your fascia, and your fascia rod face width is always measured base of finial to base of finial. So it's easy to order. You're going to choose whether you want single rods or double rods, your fascia style, your size of rod you're going to use, your length of your fascia, remember, which will be different than your track size. You're going to choose your motor based on your drapery weights, 35 or 60. And remember, in several of our previous webinars, we have spoke at length about figuring drapery weights, and those formulas are available in our previous webinars. You need to specify a left, right, or center open stack, what side of the rod you want your motor on, any control accessory, choose your finials. We have over 300 finials between our iron art and design art and wood art collections. Rings, if you're using rings. Now remember, rings are not available on ripple folds. Choose the finish and specify pinch pleat or ripple fold. And if it's ripple fold, specify the fullness, 80%, 100%, 120, as Ryan did mention with the Glydea track. Very simple. Let's get social. Please like us on Facebook, start pinning with us on Pinterest, or if you have some great projects, please visit Orion's website and post it on Designer's Pride. You can also find out if there's a distributor for Orion products near you by visiting our website and clicking on the top nav for distributors. And while you're up there, don't forget to check out our blog, Spark. Thanks so much for coming.